Okay, so today's talk for the third time is, why is it difficult with people and society after a spiritual awakening? So first of all, I will define to me what awakening is. In other videos, I've talked about different types of awakenings that can happen. And I'm just going to define that again, what I mean by awakening. So to me, there is loads of different things that could be considered awakening. You can have a Kundalini awakening. You can have an emptiness awakening. You can have a love awakening. And you can have like intellectual awakenings, like understandings of the mind, where you radically see life differently. Like something is recognized and you see things differently. And throughout the path, you'll notice that there's many awakenings or falling aways of different ideas, beliefs, energies, karmas. That so much can happen. You can also have chakra awakenings, so you can suddenly have your third eye opening or your crown chakra opening. You can have openings of what they call siddhis, I think, which is like special powers, which could look like having intensive empathy. So you walk into a room and you can feel other people's energies. Yeah. So there is so many different things which we can call awakening, but mostly what I focus on in my talks is the awakening to the nothing side and the everything side. You could put it as consciousness and beingness, and that being an energetic awakening, not an intellectual awakening or an emotional awakening, although those things do happen, but this energetic release where it stops being a separate entity which is experiencing, so you experiencing, and it resumes back to the natural way, which is consciousness experiencing. But consciousness being not a thing. It's not personal consciousness and all things. Yeah. So the reason why it can be difficult with society and with people afterwards is, even if you're just having an intellectual awakening, is because you're interacting with a society which is based on separation. And society, I think, is a reflection of what we internally believe. So society, the way we've set it up, is a reflection of a separate mind. So the laws, the politics, the fighting of politics, the extremes, the left and the right, the economy is all based on the way in which we see ourselves and the world. So when you have this spiritual awakening, and even if it's just intellectual, you have an intellectual realization that separation cannot possibly be the way life is. This is fundamentally going to change all your relationships, including your relationship to society. And your relationship to work, because work is also set up on the idea of separation. Like if you think about the way animals work and compared to the way we as humans work, it's such a different mentality and way of being. So we work for the future. Animals gather food for the future, but in a different way. Totally different way. Especially communal animals, they gather it together, whereas our society is so super complex. We gather it together, but then we have all this trading and money and separation. Yeah. So just intellectually recognizing it is going to fundamentally change everything. But then when you begin to have the energetic awakenings, it will change even more. because you're not coming from seeking, whereas everyone else is coming from seeking. So if you walk into a room with lots of people that are seeking, your interest is going to be very low in interacting, not because they're bad, but because you're not playing the same game. Like, to you, what is really important in the interaction, I would assume, if you've had the energetic awakening, is connecting energetically. What does that mean? It means connecting from this place of not seeking, a non-verbal place, and then the verbal is kind of an add-on. The most important is connecting from that place of stillness, and that's like really energizing. When you connect with someone else that's reflecting stillness to you, it's really energizing. Yeah, when you're mirroring that back to each other. But you'll not have the interest in the seeking, and the seeking energy will, to a large extent, most probably feel draining to you to engage in too much, because you're not playing that game. So the other person is trying to maybe get comfort or security from you, whereas you're getting comfort and security from beingness. And so the games are kind of a bit off kilter. It's like the reciprocity isn't accurate. Before, when it's two people identified, they're both playing the same game. They're both trying to get security or love from each other, or be better than each other, compete to feel superior, or release emotions on each other, or convince people of their ideas of way of living or being, or try to fulfill loneliness. So then you're kind of like energetically attracting in a way in which you're satisfying each other's seeking games. Whereas when you begin to awaken, that doesn't recharge you anymore. What recharges you is stillness and beingness and reflecting love. So there isn't this interest in competing. There isn't this interest in like getting security from the other person, from a seeking position. So it's not like you want to walk into a room where everyone's being hostile. That's not it either. So you want safety and security. You don't want to be in a war zone. But I'm trying to reflect back that you're not needing this from any other people. If they don't give you safety and security, it doesn't take away your freedom. So you're not like seeking to get that. There is a deep rest in yourself. And so this is going to be the same with society and with jobs and anything that you do from a separate way. It's just not going to quite resonate for you anymore. So there's going to be lack of interest. There's going to be also moving away from these energies that are very draining, that have like lots of seeking energy in them, where they're really trying to be something. Even a work that's like really aggressively competitive, or really coming from like a separate way of seeing life, is going to just be less interesting to you. Not because of an idea, but it will be in flow. Like your flow, you want openness and expansion. And it will want to meet and reflect that with other people. But can you find that in society? That's the next question. Is there many people in society or many jobs that can do that? So then that can be a painful place after awakening, that you're there with your heart open, with your energy open, and other people are asleep. So then you're kind of living in between both worlds. There's a deep knowing of truth, but there is a need to interact with an identified society. So, and then what about if you're awakening and falling asleep again, awakening and falling asleep? And what that means is like you're expanding, and then there's old seeking patterns that come up and then contracting. And when that's happening, the same will apply. But what might come back is the old insecurities or competing, and then there will suddenly be interest in the game again. So then to other people you might seem a bit chaotic. You might be suddenly wanting something and then losing interest in that. I used to say it seemed a little bit schizophrenic, but I think that's not appropriate anymore, because there's half of the time you're in deep rest, and then suddenly panic comes up, like, oh, I should have done that, or I made the wrong choice. Then there's this flip-flopping, which is difficult for people around you, because you're changing very rapidly. Then you've also got the dynamics where people don't want you to change. This can be incredibly painful. So I think that the most of society doesn't recognize or see happiness. What they associate as happiness is excitement. So really excited, like, yeah, we've won energy. And that is what most people recognize as happiness. And they don't recognize a contentment and a freedom and an ease so much, because they're projecting their own stuff on you anyway. So unless you're like really like, yeah, I'm happy, and like really jumping around and screaming, then the rest of the time you're like a blank canvas where they're projecting their stuff. And they've got a way of interacting with you and a way of behaving which is comfortable to them. And if you begin to change, then it becomes very threatening to them. So then there can be a lot of resistance from people around you. And it's painful because they can't necessarily see you becoming more free. What they see is insecurity, what they see is rejection. So to them, I mean, they don't say this, but you're bad. You're doing something bad. Yes. And the same in in jobs. Like a lot of jobs are often very stressful. It's like live or die situation. So if you want to advance in any way, you have to really push yourself and really want it. And more than likely that desire will begin to fall away. And if you're not like nearly killing yourself for the job, then you're not passionate. Or they don't recognize like what you give in calmness, in stillness. Like you can do just as good job, maybe even better like that, but because you're not putting on the whole charade of looking like you're half killing yourself for the job, people don't recognize that. Sometimes, but rarely. So these are a few reasons of why it can be difficult with people and society after spiritual awakening, but there's many more. Like for myself, after my awakening, my big awakening, I found it really hard to intellectualize too much anymore. So there was only like a certain amount of that I could do per day. And a lot of our society and system is using conceptualization, words, and thinking and talking. Yeah, a lot of it is like that. And I found that hard. I can do this, even though this might sound very intellectual. To me, it's not intellectual. It's like an expression of silence. It can sometimes be hard for me to follow questioners. And I've found as the years go on, that gets harder and harder. Like so now, when I'm not working, I can't really do anything conceptual. So when I'm not working on the computer, doing my books or something, or setting up the live streams or doing the technical work, then I can't really, in my downtime, do anything but meditate or listen to music. Me and my partner play board games, which I can't really do two conceptual ones, but luckily he can't either. So yeah, I do it more by flow when I play. And yeah, I talk with my partner and talk with friends, but I can't do too much of it. So me and my partner have quite an extreme life, and he tells people and they think that I'm wacky. I think he enjoys that. We do a lot of silent time together. So it's almost like we live in a monastery. Like we do silent time until 5 p.m. every day. And sometimes we do 2-3 days on the trot in silence together. Yeah, so yeah, people think I'm weird, but I managed to do it. Like even when I stay with my mother, I manage to do it where I don't offend her, but I take lots of silent time, or when I stay with friends. But if I don't do it, it physiologically hurts. It feels like my brain gets shaky. My body is just really like no to too much conceptualization. Yeah, and there had to be a lot of giving up of things. Like, yeah, like I enjoy stories, and I actually quite enjoy reading and or listening to audiobooks, but I can't really do too much of it. I can maybe do it if I'm not doing anything else online. So, is it worth it then? Like, all of this, is it worth it? Yes. I mean, to know yourself and to be at home. I mean, I feel like that's the destiny of every life, is to find home in all the movement, in all the happenings. I feel like if you just invest in life and if you just invest in pleasure, then you're bound to suffer, and the suffering will get worse and worse and worse. Okay, so that's the end for people on YouTube. If you want to join these talks live, then you can join the Telegram group, and then you'll get invites by Telegram to the talks. Yeah, I'm doing a talk in Zoom at the moment. And you can find the link for that in the box below. Yeah, so thank you, YouTube, and see you another time.